Let's take a look at some of this week's sentencings. This is Daquan Reed. In August, Reed was found guilty on all counts by a Fulton County Georgia jury in connection to the December 21st, 2020 deaths of 7-year-old Kenndy Maxie. Maxie was riding in the back seat of her aunt's car after going Christmas shopping at an Atlanta mall. Reed fired a gun, and the stray bullet went through the car Maxie was riding in and struck her in the head. Reed was found guilty of felony murder, aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, criminal damage to property, possession of a weapon in the commission of a felony, and possession of a weapon by a convicted felon. He was sentenced to life in prison. This is 19-year-old Lucian Alexander Grayson of Harrison County, West Virginia. He was sentenced to not less than 15 years and not more than life in prison for the death of his infant son, 1-month-old Rowan Cooper Grayson, Seach. At his plea hearing, he said the boy wouldn't stop crying and something inside him snapped and he shook the baby. During his sentencing hearing, he accepted responsibility, saying he made the worst possible mistake he could have made, and he understood the severity of the sentence he received. This is 47-year-old Victor Manuel Aguirre. He was sentenced to 6 months in Pima County, Arizona, for illegally voting in the 2020 election as a convicted felon. He filled out his voter registration form while being jailed in Pima County. He voted, and his vote was counted in the 2020 general election. So the get out the vote people got what they wanted, and he landed himself right back in prison. This is 20-year-old Alexander Kraus of Neenah, Wisconsin. He was sentenced to life and ordered to serve at least 40 years before being eligible for supervised release for the 2019 murders of his grandparents, Dennis and Letha Kraus. During a June 2021 trial, Kraus tried to convince the jury that a mental illness kept him from understanding that what he did was wrong. But that didn't work. 2 months later, he was determined incompetent to proceed to sentencing, so sentencing was delayed a year until his competency was restored. He was 17 on April 14, 2019, when he called 911 and said he had just killed his grandparents and needed to be arrested by the police. And just for some perspective on sentencings from around the world, in Saudi Arabia, a woman, Noura bint Sayed al-Qahtani, was sentenced to 45 years for posting on social media, tweeting her opinions. A few weeks earlier, a 34-year-old mother and women's rights activist was sentenced to 34 years for her tweets. If they started doing that here, we would need to turn an entire state into a prison compound.